Appreciate everyone being here and having an opportunity to join us in introducing Brian as the next football coach at the Naval Academy. Had a whirlwind week, as you'd imagine. I'm sure Coach will talk about, might talk about just the interim period of keeping everything on track, and did a great job doing that, and I really appreciate that. It's the first thing I'd like to say is a lot of moving parts, but again, everything here in the home base was really on solid ground. I want to talk just a couple minutes and run through something that you might be interested in, of course, being the process. How do we get to where we are today? And I won't elaborate on much. I'll just give you the facts, and then if there are any questions, we can take them a little bit later. But first thing we did was we met with the team at large immediately after the game up in Philly. Spoke to the team, introduced Brian. Coach Newberry then had his message to the players. I, through the course of the next day, 2, 3, 4, met with the team leadership, the underclassmen, those that we expect to rise to the position of significant leadership on the team next year. Had a chance to sit down with most of them and talk about the state of the program and their insights. It was those that were there this year, were part of this year's team, and also those that we anticipated being leaders next year. In other words, the people that clearly fit in the category of potential captains of next year's squad. Brought those people together and listened to their insights and thought process. In addition, the outgoing group, there were some outstanding young men that provided great inspiration through the course of the year. Great insights as well, brought them in a separate meeting. They're obviously the first-class leadership that will leave, but again, their thoughts were very important in the overall analysis. Met with a number of assistants currently on the staff. We posted the position nationally. I traveled the Eastern Seaboard last week with interview and talking to coaches. A great number of phone interviews were conducted. Engaged the Academy administration, and then spent basically hours of discussion with Coach Newberry in terms of his perspective. I had the good fortune of knowing this gentleman for quite some time, and he represents one of the national leaders as a search firm, that being Turnkey, and it's Chad Chadlos, who's a 93 graduate of the Academy, captain of the 92 football team. And again, Turnkey has been one of the leaders as far as national search groups. Currently, they're in the midst of a number of national searches for coaches, so they have a great pulse on what's happening out there in the field, in the profession. Chad's insights were invaluable. He was a conduit in many regards with regard to candidates. And I just can't thank him enough representing that group for the assistance that he gave through this process. And again, being a captain of a football team at Navy in '92, his insights both internally and externally were really important in leading us to this conclusion. Factors that were considered in the process. Every coach at the Naval Academy has a responsibility to understand in a very comprehensive way the mission. Physical mission is just one component of the mission at large, which of course also engages moral and mental educational involvement. Someone that understands the mission in the context of leadership development through physical mission was critically important. Can speak to that clearly in an articulate way, can convey that to our midshipmen in a way that provides assistance to our leadership center, to our academic center, and of course to the moral dimension of the academy, which is managed through the Commandant's office. So a comprehensive understanding of the academy in every dimension was critically important. And also, again, someone that can continue to clearly involve each of our midshipmen in a way that it leads to the comprehensive development of their leadership qualities. And that was a very critical part of this evaluation. Successful track record, winner, wherever they've been, they've found a way to win. They've even a program that might have needed some development to whatever the degree. Nevertheless, the track record at that previous institution or wherever they are had a illustrated track record of success. And that was very, very important. You know, how to lead us again to a successful environment. Reputation for integrity, respected by peers. All those boxes were checked as I went through the process, and shared information with others inside and outside of our environment here. But integrity, impeccable integrity, and that respected stature is critically important. Players coach is something that I feel is important at Navy. We're not going to necessarily get the biggest, the strongest, and the fastest, but we're going to recruit people with incredible desire and determination. And developing those players and making good players great players is something that's really important at the Naval Academy. We've got to take them to another level in terms of their abilities and their ambition, their determination, perseverance, and motivating in that context is really a critical dimension of our success at Navy. Innovative, smart, intelligent, finding a way to win. We're in a time of dynamic change in Division I football. You've seen the game evolve. It seems as though every year there are new dimensions to the game that need to be addressed, need to be thought through. We've got to move out of the consistent pattern of maybe something that we do and find a way to not only become innovative as we move into the next year, but also be innovative in the game itself, in the moment of time that presents itself on any given Saturday. So adaptability is critically important. And intelligence in being able to do that is something that was a big factor that needed discussion. I think another area that I was very intent on the full understanding of the institution's expectations in terms of the athletic prowess of the football program. Is something that we have really talked about that's embedded in the goals and objectives. Navy aspires to be the best service academy in everything that we do, whether it be the N-Star series, whether it be our competitions against Air Force, or whether it be on the football field and the big matchup that we have in December. That we want to be the best of the three service academies. And winning that Commander-in-Chief trophy is ingrained as an ambition in everything that we do. And there needs to be a clear understanding by the coach that that is an objective without any question of a doubt. The other side of that, again, is schedules can be daunting. They can be challenging. The AAC is a challenging environment, but within the AAC, if you take a look at the opportunities to be successful, take a look at a non-conference schedule where we're going to position ourselves for the most part to be successful. There's no question in our minds that bowl appearances on a regular basis, or quite often more so than not, needs to be part of that equation as well. I want to make sure that the coach truly understood that moral, mental, and physical development, leadership development is critically important. Embracing the community, making certain that we embrace our alumni, fundraising is part of it, assisting in the development of facilities and programs is important, but also important, and part of that expectation is a dimension of winning that comes with this position. And those two objectives that I mentioned a moment ago, the trophy and of course postseason competition and appearance is part of that expectation. Now, in summary, before I turn it over to Coach Newberry, if you think through the evolution of coaching, and if you take a good hard look, especially at Division I, for the most part, every head coach today was once an assistant. And timing is so critical in providing opportunities for every assistant coach. And what athletic directors look for many times is assistant coaches with proven track records, documented success that fit the mold and align with the mission or their objectives of the institution. When you can find a proven coach that's well received, that's been endorsed by every, in this particular case, every current player on the team that I talked to endorsed Coach Newberry, and you can take his success, the endorsement of those that I discussed his candidacy with, and you align that with the timing of this opportunity. Coach Newberry's time is now, and I'm really excited about turning the reins over to Coach Newberry. I'm excited about our future, and I really believe that as our 40th head coach, we've got someone that will aspire to achieve all the objectives and the goals of what this institution stands for. So with that, Strauss, let me turn it back to you to introduce our next head football coach.
Coach Newberry.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. If you want to make go ahead and make an opening.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll open up for questions.
Thanks for being here, everybody. Exciting time. Want to say thank you to Chet, to Admiral Sean Buck for this tremendous opportunity, for their ongoing support and guidance and their belief in me. I want to say thank you to Coach Nehemiah Tololo for taking the chance on me 4 years ago, coming in here from Kennesaw State. I'm thankful for his friendship, his leadership, his mentorship, the mark and legacy he's left in this program. We'll be here forever, forever grateful for that. Ecstatic about this opportunity. Couldn't be more excited. It's an honor. It's a privilege to be the head coach. It's a great responsibility that I understand fully and I embrace fully. This is a special place. I think this is one of the best coaching jobs in America. I thought that before I got here, and I certainly believe that now, especially in light of the climate in college football today with the portal and the NIL. Believe wholeheartedly in the mission of Naval Academy. It's more than football. I love that about this place. Our program will embody those things. We will foster, facilitate the mission of Naval Academy. Our goal here, it has been and will continue to be to develop young men of character and leadership, and to win a lot of games in the process. So couldn't be more excited. It's going to be a little bit of a process putting the staff together and getting things rolling here, but I'm excited about that, piecing it all together. And I know you guys got a lot of good questions for me, so I'll go ahead and open it up at this time.
And for those of you who have questions, just type question in the chat box and I'll call on you first time through after I introduce you by name, if you could give your media entity as well. Also, one quick correction. I think Chet misspoke on one of his initial comments when he said he met with the team in Philadelphia. He meant Annapolis.
I'm sorry, you're right, Scott.
Yep.
Apologize.
Yep, no problem. We'll start out with John Schofield.
Met with the team after Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Schofield.
Thanks, Scott. John Schofield with Sing Second Sports, #1 coach. Congratulations on this. Yeah, this is a great honor for you to be at such a hallowed place that we all that we cover, but we also have a personal investment in. You're taking this job. I have a quick question and a follow-up. You're taking this job at a pretty interesting time, as the front page of ESPN talks about Andre Carter's situation at Army. And right there in the ESPN story, while Carter's exception and the grandfathering in of the ability of current student athletes to get waivers should they be good enough to get them, ESPN still calls the bill, which might be signed by Friday, a significant obstacle, quote unquote, for the football programs at Army, Navy, and Air Force. So, Coach, both for you and Chet, how do you view, you're coming into this job right as a bill is being passed, that sort of handicaps you. What are your thoughts on that? And Chet, I would love your thoughts on how this affects your ability to recruit and go forward and achieve all of those objectives that you just listed off.
Let me start, Brian, if I may.
Sure.
That is not a fait accompli, John. Okay, that bill is still being debated. Okay, that provision is being debated. So we'd be a little premature to put it in the context of a done deal. So I think once it goes through channels and there's a final resolution on your question, I think we'd be in a better position to talk about it.
John, you got a second question?
I did. And Coach, you ended your opening statement by talking about, what you're doing in terms of putting staff together. Obviously, recruiting is a year-long thing, particularly in the aftermath of losing Coach Ken. How are you doing in terms of putting a staff together? And is it too early to say whether incumbents on the offensive side of the ball are going to stay on?
Well, it's going well. We're looking at all parts of our program: offense, defense, special teams, support staff. My first priority was to make sure that our recruiting was in place. We've got a lot of commitments. A lot of young men are planning to sign on the 21st in the early signing period. So obviously, I've been on the phone a lot this week with those players and their families, trying to secure those commitments, make them feel good about what's going on here. And obviously, me being named the head coach helped ease a lot of those concerns of those players and families. So really excited about where we're at in recruiting. Hasn't affected us as much as I thought it might at this point. But most of the young men that commit to the academy, it's about more than just football. Obviously, they see the value of this place, the degree that they can get from here, and what it can do for their future. And obviously, the football piece is important. The coaching staff is important for those guys. And there's still questions, particularly amongst some of our offensive recruits. A lot of those guys are still planning to sign on the 21st. Some of those guys have delayed their signing until February, which I completely understand and respect. And this is going to be a process that would like to have everybody in place by the time our players get back from the break before our first recruiting weekend. And so working diligently to do that, working with Chet and guiding me along the process and talking to a lot of people. Excited about this opportunity to put a staff together. All arrows pointing in one direction. Great chemistry and a staff that's going to pour into these young people and develop these guys. And so really excited about the ability to do that.
Thanks, Coach. Congrats again.
Thanks, John.
Scott Wyckoff.
Yeah, Coach, Scott Wyckoff with WBAL Radio in Baltimore. I mean, you've coached at a lot of places. You played at a big school. You know a lot of programs. What does it mean to you to get your first head coaching job at the Naval Academy?
Well, like I said earlier, this is a special place. This place attracts the best and the brightest young men and women from all over the country. And to be a part of that is really special. To be a part of something that's bigger than football, to be able to coach young men that are willing to serve their country, to help in the developmental process with those guys, knowing that the young men that we lead here are going to go out and serve and protect our country, gives it a whole new meaning. And I've always, I came through Annapolis 6 years ago before I got this defensive coordinator job. My wife and I were traveling from Atlanta up to Lewis, Delaware to see her family. We stayed the night in Annapolis. We stood on the Eastport Bridge across the way, looked over at the academy, and I thought and said out loud, "It would be an awesome place to work." And 2 years later, I was fortunate to get the defensive coordinator job, and never in my wildest dreams at that point did I think I'd have this opportunity to be standing here in front of you guys today. So it's an amazing opportunity. It's a tremendous honor and a privilege. I love the young men here. I can't imagine a place where there's better young men in the locker room than there are here at the academy. And that's why, one of the reasons why I came here, and a bigger reason why I've stayed here when I've had some other opportunities, is I believe in this place. I believe in the mission, and I believe in our young men.
Thanks a lot, Coach. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bill Wagner. You're muted, Bill.
Sorry about that. Bill Wagner from the Baltimore Sun and Capital Gazette newspapers. Coach, would it be fair to say that you're going to promote a defensive coordinator from the current staff of defensive assistants?
That would be absolutely fair to say. PJ Volker is our linebackers coach. PJ and I have been together for 6 years now. He's a guy that I love and respect. A tremendous amount of football knowledge, outstanding football coach, has done a tremendous job with our linebackers, has been an integral part of our success, not only coaching those linebackers, but with his input and game planning. He's creative, he's sharp, the players love him. He's a fiery guy, he motivates our players, and I have a certain level of trust with him. We're aligned, we see things the same way from a philosophical standpoint, and the way we want to do things on defense. I will certainly still be involved, not to say that I even need to be. That's how confident I am in PJ Volker. So excited for him. It's been a long time coming. He's had a lot of opportunities to take other jobs at other places, and he stuck around because he feels the same way I do about the young men here and about the Naval Academy. And so really, really excited about PJ, and I know he'll do a phenomenal job.
And with regard to offense, obviously, when you and Mr. Gladchuck met, I'm sure that you laid out a plan for how you would operate offensively and those who you might bring in. I mean, can you just kind of elaborate on your discussions there? And is there, I mean, beyond having some triple option elements, as Mr. Gladchuck outlined, was going to be crucial, what other things are you looking for in an offensive coordinator?
Well, Chet and I are certainly in alignment on what it takes to be successful here on the offensive side of the football. In a grander scheme of things, what the formula is for us to win football games here. We know we've got to be able to run the football. We know we have to have an element of triple option. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. Talking to a lot of different people, a lot of people that out there really creative in what they're doing, really innovative with triple option principles, whether it be under the center or in the gun. I think the thing that we've got to be able to do here as well is take what people give us. We've got to be able to get the ball on the perimeter in creative ways. We've got to be able to throw three-step, quick pass game, get the ball on the perimeter with quick screens, for example, and be able to take advantage of what people are giving us. And that's the RPO world of today. But we've got to be able to run the football. We've got to possess the football. But if people are going to give us things on the perimeter we can take advantage of, we need to have a way to be able to do that. And whether that means throw it 8 to 10 times a game or 15 to 20, whatever we have to do to win. But we know we have to run the football. We know we have to possess the football. And that's what we're going to do. And excited, talked to a lot of really, really innovative offensive coordinators out there. A lot of guys with some great ideas, and we're still in the process of vetting those guys. But really excited. I know what the formula is. And I know what I want it to look like, and that's going to be a collaboration with whoever we hire and what my ideas are for that offense.
Chad, can you comment about, obviously you had to be convinced that the folks that Brian was talking about bringing in offensively were going to be an upgrade and an improvement. Can you kind of talk about where you sat on that side of things?
You talking to me, Bill?
Yes, sir.
Brian is the head coach. I don't get that deep into that type of decision making. I just give him my philosophical thought process, and he'll make the decisions that he feels are in the best interest of talent, recruiting, the type of person that he's feels that he can win with here, type of coaching staff that he can put together that'll complement both all of the above. But I think most importantly is what he mentioned a moment ago, is that we know time of possession, and we know that some dimension of the triple option has been the staple, and when we've gotten too far away from it in the past, we've run into trouble. So we talked through all of that. Again, the history and some of that history we don't want to repeat, but I've got the greatest confidence that he'll make a decision that he feels is in the best interests, and I'll support him.
Reminder, if you have a question, type question in the chat box. Noah Trister.
Yeah, Noah Trister with Associated Press. This is for Chet. You mentioned a little bit the input you received from the current players. How much of an impact did that have ultimately in the decision to keep this, to fill this position internally, so to speak?
I wouldn't, I can't, in terms of all the players that I met with, which was interesting, both sides of the ball. You think that the defensive players that are closest to Coach Newberry would be as great as advocates, but that wasn't necessarily the case. Both the offensive as well were extremely supportive, and there wasn't a player that I talked to, which I talked to what I consider to be the leadership, next year's leadership and outgoing leadership. There wasn't a single player that didn't support Coach Newberry, every one of them.
No, do you have a follow-up? Mike James.
This is Mike James from the Mid-Report and Rivals.com. Coach, what has your message been to recruits over the past week?
My message has been, a lot of these recruits and parents have been to campus, been on official visits, have sat down with Coach Nehemiah Lolo. And when you sit down with Coach and he talks about the values of our program, the way that we treat our players, the way that he treats our staff, our core fundamental values, that's very appealing to parents and players. And I wanted them to understand that if I were to step in that role, those same values I have. One of the reasons why I came to the Naval Academy, because I believed in those values and the way that we treat our players and the way that we do things. And I wanted them to know that the culture piece of things in that regard will not change. Obviously there'll be some changes on both sides of the football, but the values, the way we treat our players, the way we operate, what's important to us, what our program is based on, those fundamentals are not going to change. And that was the message to those guys and those families.
You mentioned when we first spoke about when you came from Kennesaw, one of the unique things about being part of a brand new program was that you get a chance to set that culture from the very beginning. Are there any lessons you take from that experience into your first head coaching job?
I think the great thing about this place is our culture is strong here to begin with. We did some unique things on our side of the football. We talked about effort, attitude, and toughness, and being elite in those categories. And that's going to apply to our entire football team now. But the culture piece is important. Our guys understand there's a talent gap most weeks that we play. How are we going to make up for that gap? And it's my belief that the intangibles do that. Schematics do that. And our guys know they have to play harder than everybody else. We've got to be tougher than everybody else. We have to be more disciplined than everybody else to make up for that talent gap and exceed that. And so that's what we're going to be built on. Our players understand that already. That piece is not going to change.
Joe Miller.
Hey, Coach. Joe Miller, Navy Radio Network. Congratulations.
Thanks, Joey.
Have you had a chance to talk to the players, and what was your message to the team as a whole right now?
Well, I had a chance as the interim when it first happened, and my message to them was the same as it was to the recruits about our culture and the way that we do things not changing. Obviously, we finished up finals. Our guys are at home right now, so they sent my private message. I sent an email to all their players to get rested up, get rejuvenated, all right, and get ready to get back and get to work.
And what's your timeline for having your staff in place? What do you want over the next couple of weeks, month? What are you looking at as far as your timeline?
Yeah, we're hitting the ground running. I've already talked to a lot of people. Potentially may have a couple of guys in the interview this week. I would love to have a staff in place by the time our players get back from the break. We've got a recruiting weekend that second weekend in January. We'd love to have a staff in place if at all possible. Understand these things take time, and I want to do it the right way. I'm not going to be in a rush, but it would be the best case scenario, Joe. That would be the timeline.
Once again, congrats, Coach.
Thank you so much.
John Schofield.
A quick follow-up, if I may, Chet. You have presided now over two pretty high-profile staff changes in your tenure. The first one that I really remember is being Richie Meade, departing as the lacrosse coach. And in that case, and in this case with Kenny, it often leads to, not a 100% satisfaction return, right? And one of the key tenets of leadership that we teach at the Naval Academy is being decisive. And I think in this particular case, you were decisive. Have you had the opportunity to engage with alumni groups, council of class presidents, anyone outside of the circle and Ricketts to get feedback on this? And do you have a message for people out there who were very unhappy with the Kenny firing? Do you have a message that that you would like to impart upon them as we start the Coach Newberry era with a lot of excitement?
John, I think that your decision making, is brings with it perspectives that can't be explained or shared, while those decisions are being thought through. And with the greatest degree of respect and appreciation that I have for whatever opinions were out there, I just found through the course of the week, and I repeat with the greatest degree of respect, that anything would be a distraction to me from keeping my attention on the target. And that was in as short of order as possible to land the best coach we possibly could at the Naval Academy. So I just considered anything other than directly related to my mission just clouding clear thinking, and I just couldn't deal with it, and I haven't dealt with it, to the dismay of probably some. I haven't read any articles, I haven't read any emails, I have not engaged in any kind of emotion. I just stayed the course and tried to get us to this point as quickly as I possibly could. I think the opportunity now presents itself through a course of time and through the meetings that I'll have with alumni groups and councils of presidents and others to maybe talk to the process and share with them some of the thinking. But again, for the third time, I'll repeat, I have no intention of being disrespectful of the opinions of those that surround the program, the football community, but there's no way I was going to deal with it. I just had to get to the bottom line, and the bottom line is Brian.
If I may, a quick follow-up for Brian. Scott Wyckoff mentioned, this is your first head coaching gig. I know that the alligator closest to the boat is, getting an offensive staff, recruiting weekend in January. But have you given yourself a moment to think about what your first head coaching game will be, who that opponent will be, how unique that venue will be? That's kind of a neat part of the beginning here.
Yeah, no, I haven't given it a ton of thought. It's obviously in the back of my mind, and got a lot to sort through and process. And it's been awesome. It's been a little overwhelming, to be honest with you. But yeah, I could be more excited about that opportunity. What a great first game. What a great first environment. And we're going to go out there to win that game. I promise you that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A reminder, if you have any questions, type question in the chat box. Barry Barry from the Washington Post.
Hey, Brian, congrats. I'm curious, your boss, who brought you to the Naval Academy, started his career, I think, with 11 bowl appearances in 13 years. I'm just curious about what you think the parameters for success are there. What's realistic? What would you, just record-wise, wins and losses-wise, consider realistic in your new job?
Yeah, well, it's my job to maximize who we are. If I can do that, then I feel like I've been successful. Obviously, wins or losses are very important in our business. My goal is to win the CIC first and foremost, to get that trophy back here and keep it here, to win our conference and to go to a bowl game. Those are the expectations. I think they're very reasonable expectations, very achievable expectations. This is not a rebuild. our program is not broken. We've got a great nucleus of players coming back. My expectations for what we can achieve next year are sky high. So to me, the sky's really the limit. Really excited about this team. He's talking about 17 or 22 starters coming back, quarterback coming back. Played some really good football, especially toward the end of the year. And I think we can be a lot better, and we will be. But the expectation, like I said, is to win the CIC, keep that trophy here, win our conference, and go to a bowl game every year. And that won't change. And I think it's realistic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
Mitchell.
Hey, Coach. Congrats again on the new gig.
Yes,
Just wanted to was kind of curious. You've been at Navy a few years now. It's one of the maybe most unique college football coaching jobs we kind of have in this world. What did you learn from Coach Niumatalolo the past couple of years on how to do the job that you have now?
Yeah, well, I think he's one of the best leaders I've ever been around. I think the biggest thing I take away from Coach is, it's easy to be a leader when things are going well. I've had a lot of adversity the last 3 years, and that's when I think real leaders step up. And I thought he led our team in some tough situations phenomenally, and that's certainly something. There's a lot of little things I'll take away. Obviously, I've learned so much from him, and so many things I like to emulate. I'm not Coach Niumatalolo. I won't try to pretend to be him. But if I'm half a leader he was, I'll be happy about that. But certainly the leadership piece of things, and how you treat your players, obviously, and how you treat your staff, really admired the way he handled that.
Mike James.
So, Coach, I know you've been coaching for a long time. I'm sure in the back of your head you've always thought about, when you do get a head coaching job, what is your offense going to look like? Given that it's going to be have some sort of option flavor to it, how is that something that you have always kind of considered, or is that is there kind of a delta between what you're doing because of the institution versus what you kind of had in the back of your mind?
Yeah, well, the institution obviously is a big factor in that, and knowing what we have to do here to be successful. As a defensive guy, I've always believed in playing great defense and running the football. Not necessarily running the option, but running the football, possessing the football. And so obviously here at the Academy, we've got to be able to do that. And, I've be honest with you, being a head coach has never necessarily been the end all be all for me. I didn't grow up with that being the main goal for me. I love being a coordinator. I love calling the plays. It wasn't until, probably the last really 3 or 4 years, Mike, that I really started to see myself in that role. And partially because the last 2 head coaches I've been around and seeing the way that they do things, knowing that you don't have to compromise, knowing that you can do things the right way, knowing that you can still have balance between your job and your family. And then I started to get excited about it. So then you start to think about the way that you want it to look. And obviously here at the Academy, I know what the winning formula is. I know what it has been for a long time. And some changes we got to make. We just got to do some things better on both sides of the football. And we will. But excited about that, excited about piecing together what that offense is going to look like. I've got some really strong feelings about that, but I also want to collaborate with an offensive coordinator. That's an exceptional X's and O's guy, but also has the flexibility to adapt to his personnel and to what he's seeing defensively week to week. And so excited about that piece of it. And there's some really good ones out there.
Thanks, Coach.
Bill Wagner.
So Brian, are you concerned? I mean, already a very talented player has announced he's going into the transfer portal, a guy that you were relying on for next year. Are you worried about more defections, and do you feel like you can hurry up and pull this thing, or already have started to guarantee that you don't lose more talented players, be it ones currently in the program, ones committed to the program, or ones that are at the prep school?
Yeah, well, I think it's always a concern. That concern was a little different in this situation, obviously. The one young man that left the program had plans to do that before any of this happened. So that, for us here as a sophomore, especially if you've had success and you've played a lot of snaps, maybe you're not happy with everything, then you start to look and think maybe there's other opportunities out there. Obviously, the transfer portal has made those opportunities more accessible. And so it's always a concern, but we've got a really tight knit group, guys that love and care about each other. I think the changes in college football with the portal and the NIL, I think that's an advantage for us. I really do. We're a developmental program. Some of the other schools, it's really hard to develop a team and a culture of a group of young men that care about each other, that love each other, that have been through the fire together, that have earned their respect from their teammates, hold each other accountable. We have the ability to do that here. And I think that's a huge draw. And the NIL piece obviously is on the back end of what this place can do for you. So for me, I think the culture piece has always been strong here. And I think that's going to be our biggest advantage moving forward in today's football climate.
So in terms of announcing staff and formalizing some hires on both sides of the ball, how quickly can you get that done? Because you need to get guys out on the road recruiting, and that would be happening now. And I don't know if, all of the assistant coaches, regardless of their future here, have been out recruiting, but can you kind of address that situation? I mean, you can't dilly-dally.
Yeah, we're in a dead period now. So we won't be able to go back out on the road till the second week of January. And so we were all on the road this past week. The guys were out beating the bushes and made sure that we saw all of our committed players and our top recruits. And guys, to their credit, not knowing what was going on, myself included, I went out and hustled. I was on the phone all week talking to parents and players and making sure everybody felt good about what was going on. So we've done everything we can possibly do in regards to recruiting at this point. Now it's a dead period. Our coaches are still in contact with players and doing their due diligence in that regard. But yes, I would love to have a staff in place. So when the dead period opens up back up, we can hit the ground running, get back on the road.